Okay, at the back end of 2021, I released my in-depth reviews of the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro, and I was absolutely blown away at the response to both of those videos. And so I thought a few months down the line, it's probably worth revisiting these two phones in a head-to-head comparison to really give you a solid idea of which one is more suitable, if you're thinking about getting either one. And I want to get this out of the way up front. Both of these phones are fantastic, and in my opinion, neither will disappoint. But there are a few key differences that might make either device more or less suitable. So without further ado, let's compare the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro. Alright, when you break it down, there are basically 5 key differences between these two devices, which we will cover in a moment. But before we do, let's just quickly cover how these phones are the same. The main similarity is software and performance. See, both phones have essentially the same hardware inside, with that super fast in-house Tensor chipset, as well as the exact same CPU and GPU. And these 3 components are the main contributors to how a phone performs. So likewise, both phones perform almost identically. The only real difference in terms of specs is that the regular Pixel 6 only comes with 8GB of RAM and up to 256GB of internal storage, whereas the Pixel 6 Pro has 12GB of RAM and up to 512GB of internal storage. In my experience, the difference in RAM is pretty negligible when it comes to day-to-day use, but if you're someone who needs a lot of internal storage, then perhaps having the option of buying a phone that has half a terabyte of internal storage is enough to sway you towards the 6 Pro. But as I said, the main specs are all identical, and because of Android 12 and the way that Google has refined the software experience, both phones feel super responsive, very snappy and very fast, and in all honesty, they're both a true joy to use. But then that leads me to my first key difference, which is the display. So on the regular Pixel 6, we get a 90Hz OLED panel, whereas the 6 Pro has a beautiful 120Hz OLED panel. And whilst the regular 6's display still feels really smooth, if you're looking for maximum fluidity, then the 6 Pro is the way to go. For me personally though, I got used to the slightly slower 90Hz display within about a day of using the regular 6 after switching directly from the 6 Pro. But from then onwards, it was not at all something that I noticed. Both displays have the same maximum brightness levels, and I even noticed better off-axis performance with the regular 6. But again, if having a 120Hz display is of the utmost importance, then your only option is the 6 Pro. However, there is a downside to having a faster refresh rate display, and that is battery life. In my experience, even after a full month of using the Pixel 6 Pro, which is more than enough time for the adaptive battery to start doing its best work, I was only just making it through each day without having to top it up. Whereas for the regular Pixel 6, I still finish most days with the phone sitting on anywhere between 50 to 70% of battery left. It seems baffling that there'd be that much improvement in battery performance thanks to just the difference in the refresh rate of the two displays. But for me, despite having a smaller battery capacity, the regular Pixel 6 is actually a much better performer in regards to battery life. And so then we come to the design, and this is largely going to be somewhat subjective and perhaps even redundant if you just put your phone straight into a case. But in my opinion, there are 2 key factors that make the raw, naked design of the regular Pixel 6 better than the 6 Pro. And they are the matte rails and the flat display. On the 6 Pro, you get shiny rails and a curved display, both of which make the phone look pretty cool when you first unbox it and in the promotional materials. But when it comes to feel in the hand, these 2 factors make it feel quite a bit more uncomfortable to hold. Yes, you get larger bezels on the regular 6, but like hole punches and notches, the bezels essentially become invisible within a few hours of using the phone. And for me, what I place higher priority on is the feel in the hand. And for that alone, the regular 6 is better. But again, if you use your phone in a case, then this category is probably not of too much importance. But the final differentiating factor that might sway you towards the 6 Pro instead of the regular 6 is the camera configuration. Now, both phones actually have the exact same 50 megapixel main sensors, as well as the slightly underwhelming 12 megapixel ultra-wide lenses. So if all you care about is a really solid main lens, as well as having an ultra-wide lens, well, the two phones are identical. But the two key differences between the regular 6 and 6 Pro in regards to the camera configuration are firstly that the regular 6 does not have a telephoto lens, and secondly, that it also has a pretty inferior selfie camera. I've certainly found myself missing that telephoto lens in particular. I loved using the 4X lens on the 6 Pro to capture videos of my kids playing at the park. And whilst I'm not that much of a selfie taker, there is the odd occasion I like to take a group selfie photo. And so having the wider and sharper lens on the 6 Pro certainly makes the results a lot nicer. Videos captured with the regular 6's selfie camera are also capped to a max resolution of 1080p, whereas you can shoot at 4K with the 6 Pro selfie camera. And so if you're after a much more complete camera configuration and you can see yourself really missing a telephoto lens in particular, well then the regular Pixel 6 is probably not the phone for you. Now, aside from that, what about any other little incidentals? Well, both the fingerprint sensor and the haptics are actually surprisingly better on the regular 6, though the difference is somewhat marginal. And speaker performance is always going to be subjective, but again, I personally prefer the fuller sound of the regular 6's speakers in comparison to the perhaps slightly louder, yet somewhat slightly thinner sounding speakers on the 6 Pro. I actually did a speaker comparison between the two devices in my review of the regular 6, so I'll leave that linked up in the cards and down in the description below if you want to compare the speakers yourself. But then the final key difference between the two phones is of course the price. Now at launch, the 6 Pro cost $899 US for the base model, whereas the regular 6 cost $599 US. And so when you break it down, you're essentially paying $300 extra for getting a display with a slight bump up in refresh rate, as well as the superior selfie camera, and of course that 4x telephoto lens. And if those three components are worth it, then that means you should absolutely go for the Pixel 6 Pro. In my humble opinion, a phone is a piece of technology I use more than any other piece of tech that I own. And so I want it to be the best one suited to my needs. And within reason, if that means spending a few extra $100, then I am all for it. But as much as I miss the telephoto lens on the 6 Pro, the device I've chosen to continue using out of the two is actually the regular Pixel 6. And that basically comes down to the design. I've literally got the 6 Pro sitting here in my office as well, but yet I still choose to rock this one as my everyday device. So use that information as you will, but regardless, I'm hoping this video has helped to provide some clarity in regards to which phone might be better suited to you. Aside from that, we're now not too far away from the next Top Apps video, which launches on the 1st of every month. And that means if you want to be involved in the promo code giveaway for any participating apps in that video, then you want to get signed up as a channel member. In addition to the monthly promo codes, there's also a stack of other perks that you'll get access to when you join as a channel member as well, including a members only Discord, a monthly live stream, plus all of my own assets as well. And you'll also get access to my entire filmmaking course for a staggering 90% off the original price, which means it'll only cost $5 instead of $50. So if you like the sound of that and you're keen to support the channel, then there's a link in the description to where you can check that out and get involved. Aside from that, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will catch you later.
Ooh.